Hey everybody, welcome back. James here again with you, and today I got some, I think, valuable information as to why these inexpensive, or some what people call cheap pellets, don't shoot as good as others. And through many different guns, it doesn't have to be the Cross from Premiers as an example that I'm using in this video, but I think I found out why. And it's not because of a lot of things that they're cheap or inexpensive. It's just making sure every shot counts, whether you're hunting, whether you're trying to hit paper, whatever. So if you've watched previous videos of mine, you know that I've studied the skirts, you know that I've studied a lot of things about pellets. And in this one, I'm going to explore the skirt of the pellets even more. So let me start off by saying that the skirts of pellets are bigger than the bore, of course, for it to seal. And it seems that the number, the actual given diameter for 22 caliber, which that's what I'm doing in this video, showing 22 caliber, is the caliber itself is 5.5 millimeters. So I measured a lot of different pellets, and it seems that the current number for skirt size is 5.6 millimeters more to seal in the barrel. So I have shooting clips to show you guys verifying this. These pellets are shot out of the tin, no lubrication, none of that, and I'm using my Umarex Gauntlet regulated 22 caliber PCP in this video with a Pinty 3-9x40 compact scope. These pellets are running around 860 from the chronograph out of the tin. No modifications to them, if you're wondering. So with that said, I actually made a pellet gauge to gauge the skirts. Now you've probably seen, if you've watched my past videos, I make gauges to measure head size. But you also heard that, like I mentioned, the head is what basically points in the right direction for the pellet, but the skirt is the one that causes it to group well or wobble or whatever you want to say. And that's what I found in my testing. So with that said, with this pellet gauge, what I do is I take a pellet out of the tin and drop it in here like this, and you can see the skirt, it's 5.6 millimeters, but you can see that it sticks out just a hair above the actual gauge, and there is a reason for that, and I'll show you. So I'm going to go ahead and show you the clip of showing what I've done to these pellets, and I've repeated this over and over, and on this video I'll show you another 3 shots showing what I've done. So let me go ahead and show you that now. So you see that the first group shot very well, 5 shots. The second group did not. And then I followed up with 3 shots to prove what I did to the pellets to myself, to make sure that, you know, what I was doing worked. So again, you can see the pellet sticking through the gauge. You can see the skirt sticking right above the gauge there, like right above the line. And if you know my past videos, that you know that these pellets on the inside, the surface is more squared off. And come to find out, what I found out about these pellets is that the wall thickness is not the same all the way around, and the actual center of the pellet in the back is not as centered as much as people think. So again, putting my pellet in this gauge where the skirt sticks out just a little bit, I had a fine file that I ran across the top a couple times. Make sure the pellet don't fall out. Run the pellet across a couple times like so. And I rotate the pellet inside the gauge. Do it 2 or 3 times. And what it does, it shows you how straight that this skirt is compared to the center of the pellet. And you can tell that it has a slight oval. And when I was doing my initial experimenting, I noticed that a lot of pellets were more centered than others, and a lot of pellets had the oval. Well, you just seen the shooting. Guess which one had the oval and which one was the most centered, straightest circle in the pellet skirt? The first group was the actual oval, and I thought it was going to shoot horribly, but you'll see why here in a minute, and I'll tell you why. And then the second group was the actual pellet skirt being more centered in the pellet. So I don't know if it's just how I did it, or if I just stumbled across it, or why it's happening, but I can tell you as to why that I think they do fly better with the pellets having the oval in the shape in the skirt themselves. And you can see, I mean, it's off the center by a lot just by eyeballing it. So 5 shots, I mean, crazy. 5 shots, you can see on the paper, you know, less than a ½ inch centered center at 32 yards. The 5 shots where the hole was centered in the skirt, almost 3/4 of an inch. And then the next 3 shots that I shot just to verify what I was testing with the oval in the skirt, after running them through the file, it shot, you know, sub 1/4 inch groups at 32 yards out of the 10 with just doing this, just seeing where the actual skirt is in the pellet itself, or where the actual surface is. And I'll tell you the reason why I think this is happening, because I initially thought that the flat skirt, more centered, was going to do better, and in this case it didn't. And I'll share with you why I think it didn't happen the way I wanted it to initially. So this has an air reservoir underneath. The air has to travel through the gun up over the top into the breech and blow the pellet. So what does that mean? Well, the air source, or the actual puff of air, is not directly behind the pellet. I mean, yeah, it's behind the pellet, but the actual full force of the pellet hitting the surface of the skirt, inside the skirt, is not as square as I thought it was. So it's coming up at an angle like this and hitting the pellet, and with this actual oval in there, the air is causing the pellet, if it was a straighter skirt, to be off. Like I mentioned in previous videos, if it was square, the air hitting it, it could cause it to teeter. Whereas if it's got an oval in it, it allows like a somewhat of an air feed ramp, causing the pellet to even itself out down the barrel, because once the head is locked in the breech, it can't move. It would take a lot of force to blow that out, causing the pellet to actually teeter inside the barrel as it's flying down the barrel. Whereas it all starts from the breech, or the actual chamber of barrel itself, guys. So I thought this was very interesting, and it was, you know, crazy to me that I just come up with a real quick gauge like that to make it a 5.6 millimeter gauge to see how these pellets are shooting and why they're shooting, or why they're not shooting so well in some guns, I should say. And it doesn't matter if it's these pellets or other pellets. You know, a lot of pellets are inexpensive and a lot of them are more expensive. And you're probably saying, well, what about more expensive pellets? What does this do to it? Well, you wouldn't believe it if I told you H&N and JSB actually have a little bit of an oval. They're not centered either, which is crazy to me. So I'll show you pictures of those. But other than that, guys, I thought this was a cool find, and I hope so that you think so too. You know, it just blew me away that it needed that to be off inside the pellet skirt for it to straighten out and shoot better than a pellet that was actually straight in the chamber or in the bore itself. So I'm going to leave you with that, guys. Hope you liked the video, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks again.